Hi everybody, Colin Ross here, TMCC Music 101, lecture number 18. All right, today we are going to learn about the last two modes that we haven't discussed yet, and we're going to do a brief review of all of our chord vocabulary that we've learned so far, and we're going to try and gain an overall picture of modes and chords within those modes, and some simple chord progressions. All right, so starting off, we are going to cover the last two modes that we haven't covered, which are Lydian and Locrian. So a quick review of the concept, which I'm sure you all remember, which is that, let's take the key of C. We have this set of notes, and if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up the major scale, that is the Ionian mode. If we go from 2 to 2 of that same scale, same notes, but now starting on 2, that's Dorian. 3 is Phrygian, which we associate with Spanish and Moorish music. 5 is Mixolydian, which is used a lot in rock and folk. Has the flat 7 chord. 6 to 6 is minor, which we've learned about, natural minor. Harmonic minor is taking the 7th scale degree and raising it of a natural minor scale. And that leaves the 4th scale degree going from 4 to 4, which is Lydian, and from 7 to 7, which is Locrian. So first we're going to discuss Lydian. Here's the Lydian scale, starting on F, using all the white notes. So it's starting on the root, you go whole step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step. 1, 2, 3, raised 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's just like a major scale, but the 4th scale degree is raised. Here's our major scale. 1, 4. Here's the Lydian scale. 1, 2, 3, raised 4. So the chords that would naturally follow with the 1, 4, 5 makes the 4 chord a diminished chord and makes it sound like you're actually in the key of C instead of being in the key of F Lydian. The way Lydian is used frequently is to add a dissonant note to a major sounding chord. So here's an F major or an F major 7, and in jazz they often there's that Lydian note, that raised 4. Even though the scale sounds like it's with the natural 4, when you put the raised 4 in there, it adds that nice dissonance that they use in jazz a lot. There it is. All right, so that's Lydian. You don't hear a lot of melodies or know a lot of songs that involve Lydian, and or at least I don't, and they aren't a huge part of Western musical culture. The main place that you hear Lydian is in bebop and modern jazz scales, playing over chord progressions that are not necessarily from the Lydian chord progressions, but using the Lydian scale against regular major chord progression. It's not the only way it's used, but it's the most frequent way that it's used. Locrian, 7 to 7 of the major scale. Starting on the root, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, flat 2, minor 3, 4, flat 5, 6, flat 7, 8. The main way that in Western music we hear this is in reference to Middle Eastern scales. So once again, it's much more frequently heard in Middle Eastern and in melodic structures than in chordal structures. Because if I take every other one of that scale like you would a normal normal major or minor scale, that's the 1 chord. Here's the 4 chord. Here's the 5 chord. And it doesn't want to stay there. It wants you to be la. So it's very hard to hear it as a stable harmony. It sounds like it wants to go back to. But if you just use it as a melody, so Locrian is harmonically very unstable and melodically exotic. Typically, there's not a lot of Western music, Western being everywhere outside of the Middle East and the Asian Pacific. There's not a lot of music in Locrian that you're likely to hear. There is some use of it, however, melodically and especially in Middle Eastern music. All right, so we now have all 7 modes that we've learned. So we've learned that from 1 to 1 is Ionian, which is major. 2 to 2 is Dorian. 3 to 3 is Phrygian, which has the flat 2. 4 to 4 is Lydian, which we frequently hear in jazz. 5 to 5 is Mixolydian, which is used in lots of Irish music and folk music and rock and roll and country and all kinds of other popular music. 6 to 6 is minor, which is also quite popular, especially in classical music and older songs. 7 to 7 is Locrian, that we almost never use. And those are the 7 modes. So when you think about it, it's 7 modes times 12 scales. So that's 84 modes. So if I said, what is, whatever it is, whatever root I choose, let's say I'm going to choose A flat. So what is A flat Dorian? So then the question is, what is A flat number 2 of? What major scale is A flat number 2 of? So if here we are on 2, here's 1. So it's the same set of notes as a G flat scale. So here's my G flat scale. And then here's A flat Dorian. And Dorian once again has that minor 1 chord, but the major 5 chord. And that's kind of the sound that we associate with Dorian. Lots of folk music, lots of metal shredders, and lots of Irish music uses Dorian. All right, and some jazz. Lydian, okay, so going back. So if I said, what is A flat Lydian? So then the question would be, what is A flat the 4th degree of the scale of? And the answer is E flat. So if we could play the set of notes that's the E flat scale, 1, 2, 3, but I start on 4 of that set, that's my A flat Lydian scale. Raised 5. So one way to think of the modes is always in relative to the given major scale. However, if you practice them enough, you'll find that they each have their own characteristics. So of the 84 modes and of the 12 scales, some of them are used a lot more than others on account of the way instruments are tuned and some of the physicality of instruments in general. As we've noticed on the recorder, for instance, it's a lot easier to play the white notes, the notes that correspond to the white notes than it is to the ones that correspond to the black notes. Where's my recorder? Here we go. So C is here, but C sharp, you have to do the half hole here. Here's D, and D sharp, you have to do that to get D sharp. So here's E, here's D, and here's D sharp, half hold. Here's E, F, and here, instead of going, here's G, but to get F sharp, we have to put these two back down. So to play a chromatic scale on a recorder is somewhat complicated. There is A flat, A, B flat, B. So some instruments, it's a whole lot easier to play in certain keys than in other keys. For instance, on the guitar also, it's so much easier to play in the key of E than it is to play in the key of F. It's physically much more difficult to get the bar chord than it is to get the open chord. Similarly with piano, for beginners, it's much more easy to play on the white notes than using so many black notes. So consequently, keys like that have 1 or 2 or 0 black notes, like C, D, C, D, A minor, E minor, are much easier to play in than F sharp minor or F sharp major or D flat. They're physically easier to play in. On account of that, you'll find that some of the modes and some of the scales are very much more popular than other ones. So, for instance, I know almost no songs in the key of B. The only song I can think of that I have played often in the key of B is the Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen's mid-80s song, Born in the USA. Other than that, there's like very, very few popular songs that are in the key of B. There's tons that are in the key of C and tons that are in the key of B flat, but very few in the key of B. Same with F sharp and G flat. There's lots of songs in F, lots of songs in G, and not so many songs in G flat. One of the things you'll find over and over is that music that's generated on guitars and stringed instruments favor the white note keys. They favor the sharp keys. You'll see a lot of music in 0, 1, 2, and 3 sharp, so lots of music in C, G, D, and A, and not so much music in the flat keys, B flat, F, E flat on guitar. So one of the ways that people are able to use the same series of gestures over and over in different keys, for instance, is using the modes on guitars. Another concept that I don't have it handy here. I should have preset it. Is the capo idea, which is like using a bar chord, only you're just clamping the capo on here. So if this is my E chord, if I pretend that this is my finger is now the end of the guitar, this is F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A. Those are called bar chords. You can also do that with a capo, which is a metal device that just clamps across there. I wish I had one handy to show you. Shoot. Where have all the capos gone? Anyway, we'll come back to the capo. So, certain modes are much more popular than other modes. So, for instance, like I said, the white note keys with 1, 2, and 3 sharps are much more popular for keyboard and guitar and violin. And when it comes to horns, saxophones, trumpets, and especially saxophones and trumpets, they do what they call they are what they're called transposing instruments. So when you write a C for a trumpet or a tenor saxophone or a soprano saxophone, they're actually going to play a B flat. They read the C, but they play the B flat. So it's like the instruments are physically tuned differently than the scale that they're reading on paper. And the reason for that is to make their reading easy. The music falls a lot in B flat and E flat and A flat, and they didn't want to have to read in B flat, E flat, and A flat, so they made B flat into C, so that when they just read the no sharps and no flats, they're actually playing a B flat scale. It's called a transposing instrument. And so that makes the keys that are easy to read for them, B flat, E flat, F, and G, because then they're reading in the easy keys of C, F, and G, and D. All right, so that's transposing instruments. By way of review, we have now learned 5 different triads. We have learned major, minor, diminished, suspended, and augmented. And we remember those, right? Major, 1, 3, 5 of a major scale. Minor, 1 minor 3, 5 of a major scale. Diminished, 1 minor 3 flat 5. Suspended, 1 4 5. And augmented, 1 3 raised 5. So one of the exercises that you can practice is take a note. Let's say I'm going to play A. A. Now I'm going to sing a major triad. 1 3 5. Now I'm going to sing a minor triad. 1 minor 3 5. Da, da, da. Now I'm going to sing a diminished triad. 1 minor 3 flat 5. 1 minor 3 flat 5. Now I'm going to sing a suspended. 1 4 5. Now I'm going to sing an augmented. 1 3 raised 5. 1 3 raised 5. So you can test yourself and then go to a different key. All right, here we are in G. G major, 1 3 5. G minor, 1 3 1 minor 3 5. G diminished, 1 minor 3 flat 5, etc. So those are the 5 triads that we've learned in 12 keys. So that's 60 triads. Then we've also learned 7th chords. We've learned a major 7th chord, root 3rd, 5th, major 7th, just the one that falls on the key. We've learned the 7th chord, which for some reason they, even though it says just 7, it's flat 7, also known as a dominant 7, and that's root 3rd, 5th, flat 7th. Then we learned the minor 7th chord, which is root minor 3rd, 5th, flat 7th. Minor 7 flat 5, root minor 3rd, flat 5th, flat 7th, and diminished 7, root flat 3, flat 5, and double flat 7. So let's take a look at those on the keyboard for just a second. I know we've gone through this a lot, but hopefully you're attaining fluency at this. So we learned our 5 triads. Here we are in the key of C. Major triad, 1 3 5. Minor triad, 1 minor 3 5. Diminished triad, 1 minor 3 flat 5. Suspended, 1 4 5. Sorry. Augmented, 1 3 raised 5. So those are your 5 triads. Major, minor, diminished, suspended, augmented. Then we learned the 7th chords. We started with just a regular triad with a doubled octave. Then we went major 7th, root 3rd, 5, major 7. Then a 7 chord. This is the dominant 7th chord. Root 3rd, 5th, flat 7. Minor 7. Minor 3, 5, flat 7. Minor 7, flat 5. Root 3rd, flat 5th, flat 7th. Diminished 7th. Root flat 3rd, flat 5th, double flat 7th. So once again, we could practice. We could say, okay, let's sing it. Let's sing a major chord with a doubled octave. 1 3 5 8. Let's sing a major 7th chord. 1 3 5 major 7. Let's sing a 7th chord. 1 3 5 flat 7. Minor 7. 1 minor 3 5 flat 7. Minor 7 flat 5. Minor 3 1 minor 3 flat 5 flat 7. Diminished 7. 1 minor 3 flat 5 double flat 7. All right, so those are our 5 7th chords. We've also learned an add, we've also learned a 6th chord and an add 9, which is the same as an add 2. All right, so a 6th chord is just root 3rd, 5th, 6th. Root 3rd, 5th, 6th. Another way you can think of that is root doubled octave, major 7th, 7th, sixth. So root, third, fifth, sixth. That's a sixth chord. An add 9 chord is root, third, fifth, 9. And an add 2 chord is root, 2, 3, 5. You see that an add 9, here's the D, is the same as an add 2, just up an octave. So here's an add 2, here's an add 9. And one we didn't discuss, but I should have added, is the 6-9, which has both the 6th and the 9. Here's the 9, and here's the 6th, which also forms a pentatonic scale. It's called a 6-9 chord. All right, all the extended chords are always built on a dominant 7th chord. We aren't going to study these too much, but 9s, flat 9s, raised 9, raised 11, and 13s. So here's a 9 chord. Here's a flat 9. Here's a raised 9. It's got here's the 9, it raised it. Root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7th, raised 9. So they're all built on a 7th chord. Root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7th, 9. Root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, flat 9. Root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, raised 9. 13 is way up here. Root, 3rd, 5th, 7. And you can put it against the 7th if you want. It's kind of a jazzier sound. When you get the extended notes mixed back in against the other notes of the chord, like the 9th here as a 2nd, or the 13th here in between the 5th and the 7th, it gives it a more dissonant sound. Root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, 13. Sounds more open, and root, 3rd, 5th, 13, flat 7 sounds more dissonant and closed. All right, so those are the extended chords, and at this point we've basically learned a vocabulary